Okay, now before we get into all of the incredible mixing content and strategies and techniques and tricks throughout this module, I wanted to add this video in here specifically for those of you who are just starting out, who are beginners. Because this is often the part where you can start to feel a bit overwhelmed. There are so many possibilities as to what you could do, and so you feel like, oh crap, do I need to add like 10 different reverbs and 8 different compressors, and do I have to go buy Slate Digitals or Waves compressors and all this stuff? It's like, wow, all of this information, how do I apply it? Well, I wanted to just bring some clarity to those of you who are just starting out so that you don't run through module 5 here and feel overwhelmed. And that is my first point here, is don't overwhelm yourself. My friend, don't feel the need to add 4 reverbs or 5 delays on a bunch of different return tracks on your song or on your vocals. Instead, treat this like a workout plan. What does a good workout plan give you? Well, if you bench pressed 120 pounds yesterday, it doesn't tell you to bench press 320 tomorrow. And I'm not either asking you to go from beginner to now make 10 return tracks with automations happening on all of them. Don't go for that right off the bat. I do have some of that type of more advanced stuff in this module because you're going to want that and need that the more that you grow. But at your stage right now, if you are a beginner, keep it simple. Just take a step-by-step approach and brick by brick start to learn these very intricate sub-skills. And the more that you do that, the more your house, this house that you're building, your music production expertise is going to really come to fruition, and your songs will start to sound more and more professional. So once again, don't jump your bench press from 120 pounds to 320 pounds. Instead, take a brick by brick incremental approach and just start slow. All right, the second point I want to make here for those of you who are beginners who are just starting to mix your songs is, when in doubt, keep it minimal. So what I recommend you do is, when you're ready to mix your song, go through module 4 and make sure that you have really solid EQ and compression on your vocal. And then as far as dialing in the mix, just add maybe 1 reverb and 1 delay. Keep it simple, and then maybe add like a saturation or something to the lead vocal as well to add a bit of analog grit. But other than that, you don't need to add a bunch of things, because it's not just that you don't need to, it's also that it's not helpful necessarily to add a bunch of things when you're just starting out. Because often if you're just starting out, your ear hasn't become very fine-tuned to what works and what doesn't. So if you throw everything on your song, then your song just might kind of feel cluttered and overwhelmed with all the different stuff that you're trying to do on it. So when in doubt, if you're just starting out, keep it minimal. Don't overwhelm yourself. Again, like I mentioned at the previous point, don't overwhelm yourself. Keep it minimal whenever in doubt. Point number 3 for beginners, and this applies to all of us as well when it comes to mixing, is only use background vocals and doubles if they actually make your song better. There are plenty of genres or subgenres where the majority of the time the track will sound better if it's just one vocal and you don't have all the doubles and the backgrounds and the hums and the O's and the harmony tracks, right? Sometimes it's just best to keep it as simple as possible and just sticking with one vocal take. So especially when you're just starting out, don't feel the need to add a bunch of vocal stacks and harmonies and doubles. Just keep it simple. And if in doubt, just stick with your one lead vocal and try to make it sound as good as possible. All right, and finally, I'll make one more point and then we'll wrap up this video and you'll be able to get on with your mixes. And that point is, don't be afraid to hit delete. One of the problems I remember I used to run into all the time is I would fall in love with a move I would make, where I would, if I was in experimentation mode, which that's what I'm talking about here, I would throw something against the wall, and because I wanted it to stick so bad, because I came up with it, I was like, oh, that's super cool. I just love the idea of it. It feels novel. It's like, I'm going to use that. I throw it against the wall. It kind of sticks, but it's starting to fall off. It's like, it's not really working. So what do? I go up against the wall and I hold it there and I force it to stick. Don't do that. Whenever you feel like something isn't working, It's okay. And I even want to encourage you, be ruthless. If something isn't working, just hit delete. There are so many things that you could do with your production. If you don't feel good about something, why keep it? So that's something for you to think about. Don't be afraid to hit the delete button. If you recorded a double and it sounds like trash and it doesn't even work with the song and it sounds better without it, hit delete. Get rid of it. Same with like harmony vocals. Maybe it sounds better without the harmony vocal. Delete it. If you got a trashy vocoder track that makes your overall track and your vocals sound too electronic when that's not really what you wanted, then delete it. Be ruthless about it if that is what your song calls for, if it sounds better without it. And more importantly, if you just don't feel like it sounds that good, don't get attached to your ideas and to the things that you're throwing against the wall. Instead, try to be as objective as possible, and when something isn't working, just cut bait. The more you do this, the better you'll get at just creating songs really quickly or creating demos that work really well really quickly because you're ruthless about, yeah, I don't like that track. I don't even want it. It's not adding anything. It's not helping. Delete, right? So don't be afraid to delete. So those are just a few tips, a few pointers for those of you, especially who are just starting out, who might feel overwhelmed as you're going through, especially like the automation portions and when we're dialing in the mixes. There's some kind of advanced stuff happening there. So I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. Learn from it. And if it is too overwhelming, then just stop and maybe take one aspect of it and go and apply that and learn that little sub skill. And then the better you get, the more you will be able to implement everything, even the advanced stuff in this course. So thank you so much for watching. That is the beginner's guide to mixing vocals. Now get on with mixing.